All right, welcome back to the Watch of the Month Club. My name's Dave, this is Just Watch, and every month I do a segment where I recommend two watches, and I do one at a bronze tier of $60 or less, and one at a silver tier of $120 or less. So this is meant to be kind of an alternative to a subscription service. The idea being that you set aside a certain amount of money every month, and I will recommend a watch, and you go out and purchase it. And if you don't want it, you don't have to get it. So rather than you sending in money to a subscription service and getting a random watch, you just budget that much money every month, and then we'll recommend a watch that you can go out and look at and buy. We always take a look at different themes, and this month we're going to be looking at chronographs. So we'll be looking at two chronographs in particular, but at the end I always like to do sort of honorable mentions, and so we've got a total of 10 chronographs to look at, kind of in this sub $200 price range. I also like to always get suggestions from you guys for which watches to feature during this segment. So next month we're going to be looking at Pilot's watches in July. So drop me some comments down below. Let me know what your favorite Pilot's watch is at $60 or less, or your favorite Pilot's watch at $120 or less. This is going to be a tough one. There's not a lot of great budget Pilot watches, I think. The Pilot watches tend to be more expensive. So yeah, definitely help me out on this one if you guys got any suggestions. All that said, let's go ahead and jump into the list, and we'll start with our bronze tier watch this month. So again, bronze tier being $60 or less, and that is going to be Casio Men's MTP 4500D-1AV. So this is a $40 chronograph watch with a slide rule on it. So basically it's like a Breitling Navitimer. Well, okay, so there's some other differences besides that. But you're getting, a really cool Pilot style slide rule watch with a chronograph, probably more comparable to something like the Seiko Flightmaster, but again, at a fraction of the price. So just an incredibly great deal that Casio is offering. And to see this set of features in this price range, I don't think anybody else is doing that. And so if you're looking at a budget chronograph at $60, I think this is definitely one that you want to check out and consider. Just a really cool looking watch. Great design, great layout, and yeah, you get that slide rule bezel on it, which is a really fun one to play around with. If you haven't seen my Citizen Nighthawk review, that one also has a slide rule bezel. I have a lot of fun with that, and I think I think if you're looking at $60 or less, this is definitely one you want to check out. Moving on to our silver tier, and again, that's at $120 or less. We're going to be taking a look at the Timex Intelligent Quartz Flyback Chronograph. Now, truth be told, I could have filled this entire list, the bronze, silver, and all of the honorable mentions probably with Timex chronographs. I mean, they really dominate this $120 or less price range when it comes to chronographs, and they have a ton of really cool, feature-packed, very interesting looking chronographs. We're going to have a couple in the honorable mentions as well, so stick around. I'll get to my other favorite Timex chronographs at the very end of this, so those will be the last two that we feature. But let's talk about the Intelligent Quartz Flyback Chronograph. What does that mean? So Intelligent Quartz, basically this one has kind of a little computer inside of it, which allows it to repurpose some of the hands to do more than one thing. So this is a 6-hand chronograph, and 2 of the hands are these kind of retrograde hands that are kind of in the upper left and bottom right corners of the watch face. Those hands will function as either a chronograph when you've got the chronograph engaged, or they will point to a second time zone when it's not engaged. So you're getting a chronograph function, you're getting a second time zone, and you're getting a really interesting dial layout. And this is one of the most interesting looking watches out there, maybe too unique for some people and probably a little bit on the difficult side to read, but it's this really cool watch. 100-meter water resistance, nice size, great package of features, and getting all the Timex brand and history behind it. So I think it's definitely worth the $120, and if you're looking in the silver tier category, I think that's a great one to look at this month. All right, let's move on to the honorable mentions, and as I mentioned before, we have 10 watches in total, so we've looked at the first 2, so we've got 8 more to jump through. We'll try and go through them somewhat quickly so this doesn't get too long for you guys, but we're going to start with kind of our unofficial gold tier, and that's going to be the Bulova 96B231. So this is a military-inspired, vintage-looking quartz chronograph, but it has Bulova's high-frequency quartz chronograph movement in it. Really nice-looking watch. It's got a cushion case, very classic vintage stylings, and you've got the the Bulova brand history and everything behind it. So I think this is just a great watch. It's one that I really would like to pick up, and I probably would if I didn't already have the Bulova Lunar Pilot. But I think this one actually has the same movement that the Lunar Pilot has in it. It's got that high frequency quartz movement that's supposed to be accurate to like 10 seconds a year. And then that's a great feature to have in a chronograph, because that's, you know, one of those few times when having that split second accuracy might actually come in handy. So I think this is a great watch to look at. It's one that I'm really interested in, and I think, you know, right now at Amazon you can pick it up for $128. They've got a couple of them. Normally I see this one around $150, so it's actually dropped down a little bit. So if you jump on it quick, you can probably get it at that price. But even if you find it at $150, I think it's definitely worth that. It's probably its retail is probably much higher than that. So right now they're at a good price, and it's a good time to pick one of these up. All right, another very interesting chronograph to look at is the Pagani Design. So this is a Chinese quartz chronograph, but it features Seiko's Mecha Quartz movement inside it. So this is actually the only watch on the list that we've got that has that Mecha Quartz movement. Mecha Quartz is a really cool chronograph movement. It has kind of it's sort of a quartz mechanical hybrid. So I believe that gives you kind of a mechanical component to it on the chronograph pusher. So when you're engaging the chronograph, it's got more of a tactile feel, and particularly when you reset the chronograph, the chronograph second hand immediately snaps back to 0, or to 12. So that's a really cool feature there. It's something that, you know, again, you're not finding on any of the other watches in this list. I think you also get a smooth sweep on the chronograph, I think is the other part to it that is, that's part of the Mecha Quartz. I'm not 100% sure because I don't have a Mecha Quartz watch in my collection, but I want to get one. So this is one that I've really been tempted to get because this is the cheapest possible way to get into that. You can pick it up for around $50 from AliExpress. If you want to spend a little bit more, you can find it on Amazon as well. But yeah, definitely to get the best deal, you want to get that one on AliExpress. Okay, next time I'll look at two Citizen chronographs. These are both eco drive, so they have Citizen's light powered or solar powered movement inside of them. And the first one is the Citizen Brycen CA 0649-06X. This one is one of my favorite chronograph designs. It's one that I've often wanted to pick up myself. It has kind of, I think, like a real sort of race car feel to it. It's got, you know, this sort of almost like a panda dial with only one of the chronograph subdials are black. It's sort of got, this one's got a cream dial. But yeah, it very much is reminiscent of like the inside of a racing car. You're getting sort of this, you know, brown rally strap. You're getting the cool black tachometer bezel on it. So very, you know, sort of classic car feel to it. Really cool looking watch. And yeah, again, Citizen's chronograph, eco drive movement, great movement inside there. So a lot to like about this watch. And the price has been going down. I think when I first started looking at this watch, it was, you know, over $200, but now you can easily find it for around $140, $150. So the price seems to have dropped. I don't know how long that will hold, but I think it's definitely a good time to pick this one up if you're interested in the style of it. Next, we're going to look at another Citizen Eco Drive chronograph, this time the Chandler AT0200-05E. So this one is, rather than a racing style chronograph, this is like a field watch style chronograph. So you're getting a really rugged, compact, water resistant package, and you're getting very high legibility, nice. I think this one's kind of a little bit on the lighter side from what I've heard. So really comfortable to wear when you're out in the field. And just, all around great chronograph. This is one that you can often find for under $120. Right now, I couldn't find it for less than $125 is what Amazon's got it. So it was just over the limit for the silver tier, and that was one that I was tempted to fudge a little bit and pick this one. But also another great option in this price range. All right, next up on the list, we want to take a look at a watch from Seiko. Seiko also, I think, particularly more in the silver tier category, there's a lot of good options from Seiko that you can pick. They have a lot of great chronographs, and the one that I chose for this list is the men's SNDC 31. So this is kind of more of a dressy looking chronograph. Most of the other chronographs we have on this list tend to veer towards the sporty side. So I thought it'd be cool to get this one in here. I really like the look of it. It's got this kind of vintage cream dial and nice brown leather strap. So kind of more classy, more elegant, but you're getting the chronograph features in there. And just a really nice all-around looking watch from Seiko. Again, there's a lot of options, I think, in this price range between like around $90 to $150. So also I would check out Seiko and search around for that if you're interested in a chronograph in this price range. All right, moving on, we're going to take a look at an Invicta chronograph. Now, I know Invicta is probably a little bit of a polarizing pick. Most people, when they think of Invicta, they think of their gigantic, very noticeable watches, watches that are big and bold and not to everybody's taste. This is not one of those watches. This is a Rolex Daytona homage. So we're looking at the Invicta Men's Speedway 9211. This is very clearly an homage to the Rolex Daytona. It shares a lot of the dimensions of that. So this one's only 40 millimeters in diameter, but you're getting 200 meters of water resistance, a reliable quartz movement, a full stainless steel bracelet, and you're getting all that for only $70, $75. So great price, I think, for what you're getting. And because it's a Rolex Daytona homage, it looks great. It's a great looking design because it is a great design. It's just not Invicta's design, which that's probably a bonus for most people. The one thing that I do not like about this watch is that it has the tachymeter bezel, but the main seconds hand on the main dial is the running seconds hand for the time. So you can't really use the tachymeter at all. The seconds hand subdial or the chronograph seconds hand is on a subdial. So basically it makes the tachymeter completely useless. And so the way it's supposed to be when you have a tachymeter bezel is that the big hand for the watch should be controlled by the chronograph. So it should be, locked at the 12 o'clock position until you engage the chronograph, and then that will enable you to actually use the tachymeter. But nobody actually uses a tachymeter, so that's probably not going to be a big deal for basically anybody who's interested in this watch. So it's definitely not a deal breaker. It's just something that kind of always annoys me. I feel like if you're going to put a tachymeter bezel on there, you should probably at least make it functional rather than purely decorative. But again, to be honest, it's basically purely decorative anytime anyone puts a tachymeter on there. Okay, so to close out the list, we're going to look at two of my favorite Timex chronographs. I had like 5 or 6 that I wanted to put on here, but I narrowed it down to 2, tried to limit myself. You have to put the Timex Expedition Scout on this list. Regularly find them for $60 or less. There's a lot of great different color options. It's just a really classic Timex field watch design, one of their older designs that's, again, it's timeless. It's always going to look good. It's got kind of a little bit more of a rugged case than most of Timex's budget offerings, so you're getting 50-meter water resistance. And I really love the second hand on it. It usually has this kind of arrow that's like an archery style arrow for the second hand. It's kind of a cool, fun little look to it. And yeah, I think just a great budget option from Timex. This one easily could have been our bronze tier selection. And it also has, obviously it's got Indiglo, which again, one of my favorite complications on any watch. Always, love to have a watch with an Indiglo feature in there because it is, in my opinion, it is the best low light solution that there is on the market. And it's basically found primarily in Timex's budget options. So you can get like a, $60,000 luxury watch, and it's probably not going to function as well in the dark as a, $60 Timex Indiglo would. That's my opinion anyways. So speaking of Indiglo, that brings us to our last watch, which is another Timex, and this one probably is the Timex watch that takes the biggest advantage of Indiglo and tries to push it to the front and center of the watch, and that's the Timex Fairfield Supernova. So this is a watch where Timex finally got the brilliant idea that we have this super cool Indiglo lighting system. What if we made it a sandwich dial so that it kind of had this like panda dial layout where the chronograph subdials would really glow and light up when you engaged the Indiglo. And then they thought, well, why don't we take it a step further? And instead of just making it a sandwich dial, we'll also add a ton of little holes into the sandwich dial and perforate it so that you get all of these little pins of light glowing through when you engage the Indiglo feature on it. So they really took Indiglo and put it front and center. I think it's a really cool, unique look. This one, usually you find it for around like $140, I think is the retail. For whatever reason right now, this version and the standard Timex Fairfield. So if you don't like all of this, crazy, panda dial, sandwich dial thing that Timex has got going on, you can get just the classic one as well. They're both around $85, I think, on Amazon right now. I guess there's only a few of them that are available at that price. So I think you should jump on it if you want to get it, because that's a great price to pick it up at that price. But yeah, so that's going to be the last one on the list. Those are my 2 favorite Timex ones. I wanted to save some of the other ones because I think some of these some of the other Timex options out there, some of the other watches, that could have made it onto this list are sort of more pilot style watches like the Casio, and pilot style is what we're talking about next month. So I wanted to save some of those for that. So next month we'll probably see some other Timex options popping up that I think you can call it a pilot's style look, but we'll save that for that. So yeah, so that'll wrap it up for this month. Again, for July, let me know what your favorite pilot's style watch is for $60 or less or $120 or less, and we'll talk about that then. But for now, we'll wrap this up, and we'll see you guys next month. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys have purchased any of these watches and what your experience has been. If I made a mistake and one of these watches is really bad, make sure you warn everybody in the comments. But I think these seem to be pretty well reviewed, and they're ones that I've sort of had on my mind and looked at, and seen a lot of these have been recommended by other people on the channel. So thank you guys for your recommendations. Helped me out a lot, and we'll see you next month.